Hi guys. I have never done this before, but I've been meaning to for a long time. My name is Lee, and I I'm just going to share my life with the world. I'm pretty fucked up. I'm 36. I have 4 children. They're amazing. I am madly in love with, like literally madly in love with this guy. I was married. I'm separated right now and hoping to get a freaking divorce sometime in the near future. I'm half native. I live in Canada, and oh boy, I don't even know how to do this, but when I was 5 and a half, my mother, she was from British Columbia, northern BC, and she was full Nishka, and she passed away. My dad was from Montreal, but he met her up in Prince Rupert, and sorry, I'm cooking supper right now. Yum. I actually haven't cooked in a long time. I just figured I should probably start to try and be normal again. So they met. I was kind of an accident, and but my dad, he was previously married, and he had like kids with his wife and everything. So I am the youngest of I have an older sister, and I had 2 older brothers. One passed away. He unfortunately committed suicide when he was 19. My other brother and my sister, half siblings, are still around. And when my mom died, my dad, he kind of, I guess, lost his mind a little bit because he really hoped that me and my mom were going to be the family, like the family that he was going to succeed, and he was going to do really well with us, because unfortunately he felt that he had failed in his first marriage. So he kind of lost it. He abandoned me. Now I look back and I know, like life experience, that it was unintentional, that he didn't mean to not be there for me when my mom passed. But I was a 5.5-year-old little girl who really needed her dad, and he wasn't there. There was lots of drinking and partying that they did when my mom was alive, and so he took off a lot and left me with neighbors, and until the Children's Aid Society stepped in and put me in foster care for about 2 years. And then I was adopted by a Christian family, a retired reverend and his wife, and they had 4 biological children of their own. They ended up owning a foster care agency, and so I grew up in the system, but not fully, I guess. Lots of social workers. At the beginning, there was lots of therapists involved in my life because my mom died and my dad took off, and I was abused while in my parents' care, I guess. So I had lots of therapy and all that in the first 2 years of being in care, until I met this adopted family, and they didn't really fully believe in therapy, so they took me out of the school that I was in. That was for kids with emotional and mental issues. So they took me out of that school because they didn't feel that I needed to be there and I didn't need to go to therapy. As a little girl, I didn't care. That was fine. And anyways, sorry, I'm just walking all over the place here. I ended up, growing up as a Christian. I still believe in God, believe in the Bible, the church, not so much. I think it's a bunch of hypocrites who sit there and kind of sit on their high horse and judge, everybody else with bad habits or things that they, whatever denomination that they're in, says is wrong or right or whatever. So needless to say, I don't go to church now, but I do have a faith. I have a deep faith, actually. Not that I necessarily live by that. Probably should, talk to the big guy once in a while and get some help. But anyways, so I'm in the middle of a separation. I've been with my partner now for actually a year and a half. He's amazing. He's a very good guy. He has a very a deep love for people and likes to help others. And he has 2 boys. He's separated as well. The past year and a half, I've gone on this roller coaster of mental and emotional issues. And I'm suffering from complex post-traumatic stress syndrome. About 4 years ago, I got my social history from the Ottawa CAS, and it was like a book this big of doctors and therapists and teachers and all these files on me the first 2.5, 3 years, or 2 years of being in the system. And when the woman met me, she couldn't believe that I was the same woman that was the little girl in this file. And I remember her saying, go through it slowly, and if you need therapy, take it, sort of thing. I didn't want to. I didn't think I was going to need to, because everything that the file had said, I already knew. I knew about the sexual abuse. I knew about the allegations on it being perhaps my birth father himself, which wasn't the case at all, and I know that. Anyways, my ex-husband was going through a depression at this time, so I should not have gotten this file, but I thought, I was a very strong woman. I worked in I was a leader in the church. I led Sunday school for little kids, and please forgive me if I cry. I'm so emotional. I have a concussion, actually, so I'm not quite myself right now, but even then, I haven't been quite myself in a little while. So I also was a leader for the junior highs in the church, and I thought that was a very, very good age, because junior highs are kind of lost. They're just coming into teenage years, and it's confusing. And my thing is, I love helping people. Sorry. I love to help people. I don't ever want people to feel alone or scared, or kids especially, but anybody. I was always that friend that people would call if they needed help with anything. My ex-husband and I, we adopted our first son, and he was actually my foster sister's biological son, and he was going to get put into the system, so I decided, my ex and I decided to foster him until my foster sister could take care of him herself. And unfortunately, now I understand this, but at the time I didn't. She didn't feel like she was a good mother, and she felt that I could do a better job. So she didn't apply herself as well. And I ended up with full custody of my foster sister's son. And it took me probably about good four or 5 years for me to really attach a real bond with him, because I was mad at her, but I also didn't want to take her place. So it took a while for me to do that, and unfortunately she just never got him back. So the past year and a half, I grew up in a Christian home, and did all that stuff. It was really good overall, but the people that adopted me, I felt I never belonged. I loved them, I really did, but I felt I was always very fake around them. I couldn't just be myself. I had to put on a face. I had to do things a certain way, because the things that I wanted to do would attract attention to, inappropriate attention to myself. I wanted to be a model, but I remember my adopted mother saying, "Oh, you can't be a model." She said models are glamorous, insinuating that I wasn't. I was not a very pretty teenager, I guess. I really wasn't. I was very insecure and, confused, and didn't belong in this adopted family, but I loved them, and anyways. So I wanted to be in gymnastics or dance, but that also, I wasn't allowed to do that for whatever reason, and I was in piano. I quit after 2 years. I was in the choir. I quit as soon as I could with that too. I was at church 4 or 5 days a week as a teenager. They really wanted to make sure that me and the other adopted kids in the family didn't turn out like our birth parents, who were drug addicts or alcoholics or whatever. But I just do have to point out that they also had their own addictions. It wasn't substances, but maybe a little bit of too much food or something, or they all have diabetes or whatever. Amazing, good-hearted people, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I belonged, and I felt very judged in this family. Me and my partner, I was getting over the fact that I knew my marriage was over for quite a long time, but I was getting over the fact that I lied to God, and I was very upset about that for a long time, because I didn't want to lie to God. I said I was going to love my husband until death do us part, sort of thing. So I was a little bit messed up about that. I started drinking heavily after the separation, and I abused drugs, and my ex ended up taking my children to his parents' place in Quebec, and he got word of how I was behaving, what I was doing, and he ended up keeping my kids, my 4 children, at his parents' place for 5 weeks, and going from a stay-at-home mom who raised these kids morning, noon, and night to not having them at all. I drank and I did the drugs, just so I wouldn't think about it. I felt so paralyzed I could barely get up in the morning, and my partner, he took care of me. And he loved me, and he said I deserved better, and that, like, he was actually a neighbor, and I'll tell you that story another time. But yeah, so that really messed me up. And then finally, when I found out that my ex was trying to get my kids in school in the Montreal area, I finally said, okay, enough is enough. I got a lawyer after 5 weeks. And my lawyer, unfortunately, wasn't able to, she didn't have jurisdiction in Quebec. So I had to go by myself. And my partner, he brought me, and I was brutally humiliated in court by my, at the time, husband, ex-husband. He brought up everything that I had ever done wrong in the marriage. From his, like, please forgive me, I don't, like, I love everybody, I really do. But his lawyer was gay, and he had quite the attitude. He was very belittling to me, and just made me feel like a piece of shit, because there was a lot of truth to what the allegations were. But at the same time, if you see my children, they're freaking amazing, and they're strong, and they're good, and they're polite, intuitive, funny. I was a good mom. So that was very hard. But I did it. I went to court and I won. And I got my kids back. And I could have gone for full custody because my ex has his own issues. And he's very, like, forgive me, but controlling, and it has to be his way or no way. And I gave him all the control. I have a tendency of doing that. I want others to feel good about themselves. I want them to be the best they can be. And my ex wanted to be a leader, so I let him lead. And he unintentionally, I feel, took advantage. So, yeah, I ended up getting my kids back 50-50. So they moved back to the town that we lived in, and he ended up. Sorry, I'm just still finishing dinner. Oh, he's coming. I ended up moving in with my boyfriend, my partner, a little too soon probably. And yeah, that made my ex very upset. So I will tell you the rest later, because he's coming. Not my ex-husband, but my boyfriend. So I will tell you the rest later.